So today I'm going to be flying my ATOMRC Swordfish, and I'll give you a bit of a walk around and I can show you what parts I've used. So first on here you've got the ATOMRC pan and tilt mount, but I've only got the pan at the moment. I think that's all right. I don't really need the tilt because I don't really need to see any further down. I am using the Caddx Vista on the back there, and I am still actually using the DJI V2 goggles, as I really think this is the best option for you if you're trying to fly iNav. Considering if you use the 03 or you use any newer goggles, then you're not going to be able to get the full OSD. The full OSD is only available if you route your goggles and route the Vista. So let's turn the plane over and have a look underneath. So here you can see I've added some tape just to reinforce the bottom. Now this is some tape that's got some fibre in it, so it's very strong. And if you're landing on a surface like this, which we're going to do today, which is going to be landing on this road, if you don't have that protection, then you're going to start to rub away at the foam. Now we can have a look under here and I'll show you what flight controller I've used. Now, it is a very small bay, so you're going to have to use a small flight controller. And the one I'm using in here is the Speedbee F405 Wing Mini. All the ESCs, motors and propellers are what come with a plug and play. Also the servos, so I haven't changed any of those. Those are what you get from ATOMRC with the plug and play. But you don't get a flight controller, you don't get a receiver, and you don't get a GPS unit. So for the GPS unit, I've got it mounted here, and I'm just using a simple Betan one. And after we've removed the cover, you can see my ELRS receiver in there. I am using the Betaflight Super D, so we have got true diversity on there. And it's a good idea to mount your antennas like this. You've got one horizontal and one vertical, so you're covering all of the zones then as your plane rolls. For the battery, I'm using this 4S 1P 21700 pack. These are P45Bs from Molicel, so I can get some quite good flight times on these. I've had 20 minutes before and I've only gone down to 3.8. So you can take L-ions all the way down to about 3 volts. So I can actually fly a lot longer than 20 minutes. And I do recommend you use something high quality like Molicel P45s. I was using these Samsung cells before and they're not great. As you can see, they're 3C. So they really sag down on launch, like they sag down to about 3 volts as soon as you launch the plane. Okay, so let's get this up in the air. So I'm going to stop recording here, and the next footage you'll see will be from the FPV camera.
Okay, so I'm just doing the iNav auto launch now. So this was actually a really terrible throw. I was trying to hold it in a different position and I sort of like just dropped it. But fortunately with the settings I have, and this is quite a very powerful plane, you know, you've got 2 motors and it's very, very light. It did manage to climb up okay. Now I've got my idle throttle set to about 1400. That means as soon as I raise the throttle, the motors will start. So they're already spinning before I even throw the plane. Now I think the default is that the motors won't spin. And obviously I understand iNav have done that for safety. But I set mine up so that as soon as I arm the model and increase the throttle, they will spin up to about 1400. So 1500 is 50% throttle, so you're just under 50% throttle. And then when I throw the plane, it increases to 1700, which is about 70-75%. So as you can see, this is a really great place to fly. It's all farmland around here. We've got a road here, so I've got all my friends down here. We'll just pass them. So they're all flying line of sight stuff, so they just use this road as a runway. We can see them just down there. We're just passing them now. So no one actually uses this road because as we follow it down, you'll see that it just ends. So they've built like a 6-lane road here, which just ends. So I'm not really sure what they're doing here. But you can just see off in the distance, if you just look, the road ends. It just ends in a dirt road. So it's been like this for several years, and me and my friends just come down here to fly airplanes, seeing as nobody uses this road, and the road is a very smooth runway for planes that need that kind of thing. So I'm just turning around here, and then we're going to fly over these farms, and we're just going to follow this long road down and see how far we can go. So some important metrics which you can have a look on my OSD. I have got my LQ up in the top corner here. I have got my amps currently drawn, and I have got my speed here. Here we can see the distance from home. So I want you to pay attention to that as we go further and further away from the launch site. So we're just passing over these fields here, and we're traveling along here. Have a look over the right and have a look over the left wing. Everything seems to be going okay. So we're sort of approaching a main road here. We're about 2 kilometers from the launch site. I don't really want to cross this main road. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn around here. So I'll flick return to home, and we're going to return to the launch site. So you can see in that turn I did lose quite a bit of radio signal. My LQ has gone right down. That shouldn't really happen with ELRS. I'm not really sure what's happening there, because 2 kilometers is not a very long distance for ELRS. Before, I actually didn't have the antenna diversity. I only had one antenna, and when I only had one antenna, I actually fail-safed at that point, and fortunately the automatic return to home kicked in and flew me back. Now I have got the 2 antennas. I'm not fail-safing, but as you can see, the LQ and the RSSI comes right down when I turn. Okay, so we're just flying over these fields again to the home point. Just looking over the right wing. And looking over the left wing. So as you can see, we've got a bunch of high rises here, and they're in the middle of nowhere. Now this is something that China does a lot of. They just build high rises in the middle of nowhere. I bet nobody lives in those. They are just unoccupied. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is kind of like this plane's party piece. So I am close to the field where I launch the plane, because I like to launch over grass, because if you do have a failed launch over road, you're not going to have a good time. I actually had this happen to my ATOMRC Dolphin, and the front was completely destroyed. So I'm actually away from the flight line here. I'm in the field. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to flick it into loiter mode, and I'm just going to walk across to where my friends are flying their line of sight planes. And this is always really funny when I do this, because they always ask me, like, where is your plane? Has your plane crashed? And I'm like, no, it's still in the air. It's still circling. It doesn't need any input from me. The GPS loiter on iNav is very good. So I'm just going to speed this up so you don't have to watch all this, because I'm just crossing the road now and going back to the flight line. Okay, so we flick loiter off. Now in angle mode it does fly well, but it's not very responsive. Obviously you've got an angle limiter there, so I do prefer to fly it in acro mode. I think what I'm actually doing here is they don't believe me that I haven't crashed my plane, so I'm just flying it line of sight over the flight line so they can see it. Okay, now flick it into acro. We're flying low. We're going to go off and we're going to do a low pass along the flight line. So we're just getting ready to do that. Just turning around here, giving it some more throttle. And here we go, low over the flight line. You can see the guys just setting up their balsa gases there. Have to be careful here. I almost forgot there are electrical lines right at the end of the runway here, so you do have to pitch up to clear those. So we're down to about 3.5, 3.6 volts now. That is only when I'm on high throttle though. And when I land, that'll probably go up to like 3.8, 3.9. And with these LINs, you get a very flat drop off with the voltage. So I'm going to land now on 10 minutes, but you can get much more flight time from these packs. So it is a little bit windy. I'm flying into the wind now. And we're just going to come in for landing. Into the wind, this plane does get a little bit squirrely when you're on low throttle. It can drop a wing easily. So I just come in under a little bit of power and then we skid to a halt. So there we are, that's my flight. Hope you enjoyed and I'll see you next time.